Hey, what's up guys? So today I'm going to talk about reconstituting growth hormone and IGF1. Now this seems to be a very complicated process for most people, and I've had this conversation numerous times, and people have a very tough time understanding and comprehending how this works. And I've been getting a lot of emails and questions about this, and a lot of people they don't understand how it works, and a lot of times people just want to be told and they want to listen to what they're told. They don't want to ever understand, and I think it's very important to understand the shit, because you can make huge mistakes not understanding just going by what someone tells you. So I'm going to break this shit down, and hopefully by the end of this video everyone will understand exactly how it works. So first I'm going to start talking about the growth hormone. All right, let's talk about serrano-serostim. Okay, that's a pretty popular growth hormone as far as the American FDA. 100% real growth. That's probably the most common one people come across is the serrano-serostim. All right, now serrano-serostim comes in a box. We call it a kit. Now in each box you have 7 bottles. And each bottle is 18 IUs, all right, which is a total of 126 IUs. Now, why did Serrano use such, uneven numbers and make this complicated as fuck? I don't know, but that's what they did. So instead of making the bottle 20 IUs, they made it 18, which just really complicates the fuck out of it. And, it doesn't really make any sense. But hey, that's the way they chose to do it. So if, let's say that your trainer tells you, I want you to take 4 IUs of growth a day, right? And you have serrano-serostim. Now, since each bottle is 18 IUs, if you were to take 4 IUs a day, 4 doesn't equally divide into 18, right? So what's going to happen is, you're going to take your first day, your second day, your third day, and you're going to take your 4th day, and then for your 5th day, you're going to have a little bit left in the bottle, but it's not enough for a full dose. So what does that mean? That means now you have to open a new bottle, reconstitute it, put the water in, and you have to take a little bit out of the old bottle and a little bit out of the new bottle together in the same syringe. And you have to figure out the math, right? How much do you take out of the new bottle? Pretty complicated, right? Now it can be figured out. You can do it that way. It's not that big of a deal. But how's this? Instead of taking 4 IUs, why not take 4.5 IUs? Now 4.5 goes into 18 4 times. See how that works? So now on the 4th day, when you take your dose, you're going to be using the whole bottle. You're not going to have to take a little bit out of the old, a little bit out of the new, and mix them together. You're not going to have to deal with that bullshit. So I highly recommend, if you're taking serrano-serostim, if your trainer says take 4, you can either go 3, which is a little bit less, or you can go 4.5, which is just a tiny bit more. Because then you're going to end the bottle and be done with that bottle and then start fresh. You're not going to be mixing the old with the new, okay? Now, so since 4.5 IUs equals 4 days of serostim because it's 18 IUs, so if you were to take 3 IUs a day, how many days would 3 IUs be, right? How do you figure that out? It's simple math, okay? 3 times what equals 18? 3 times 6, right? So now if you're taking 3 IUs a day, it's going to last you 6 days, correct? Now, obviously, this makes sense. So now let's talk about as far as where you're going to pull on the syringe to get those dosages, okay? Now, if you're deciding to take 4.5 IUs, that means you're going to mix 1 cc of water, right, in the bottle. You're going to swirl it around, never shake it. and you want to take 4.5 IUs. So since 4.5 IUs is going to last 4 days, how do you figure out where to pull on this syringe? Do you guys know that answer? I would say probably 20% of you know that answer. That's my guess. Okay, it's very simple. So if I was to take the whole bottle of Serostim, the whole bottle would be 1 cc, correct? Because there's 1 cc of water. So boom, that is 18 IUs, correct? Now, what if my dose was 9 IUs? 9 IUs would last 2 days, correct? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do half of a cc. So that would bring me to 50, right? So we already discussed 4.5 IUs is going to last you how many days? 4, right? So 4 days. So how many times does 4 divide into 100? 25, correct? So right here on the syringe, 1 cc is 100. So that means 4.5 IUs would be what? 25. See how that works? So if I'm going to take 4.5 IUs, I'm going to simply pull to 25 on the syringe. That is 4.5 IUs. Do you guys understand how I got to that dosage? This is where people are confused. And now if I was to take 3 IUs, right, that would last 6 days. So how many times does 6 go into 100? Well, why don't we just pull out our little calculator, just like this, okay? And we are going to first find the calculator, because I really don't use the goddamn calculator. Okay, calculator. So now I'm going to divide 100, which is 100 on the syringe, right? And I'm going to divide it by 6, because it's going to last me 6 days. It's 3 IUs a day. Okay, so let's do the math here. Let's go 100 divided by 6 is 16.6, all right? So, 16.6 is the answer. Okay, so I'm gonna pull on the syringe and I'm gonna go 16.6. Alright, so 16.6 on this insulin syringe is gonna be my dose for 3 IUs. Okay? So 16.6 is gonna last me 6 days. Do you guys understand how that works? So let's say my dose is going to be 9 IUs, okay? 9 IUs of growth a day. Well, 9 IUs is very simple because 9 is half of 18. So if a whole bottle is 18 and I'm going to take 9 IUs, I'm taking a half a bottle a day. So one bottle, a whole bottle of Serostim, 18 IUs would be to number 100, right? That's a whole bottle of Serostim. So if I was to take 9 IUs, that's a half a bottle. What's half of 100? Okay, that's 50. Boom. That's 9 IUs. You guys follow? Okay. So you need to be able to understand that math. Now, if you want to take 2 IUs of growth a day, how do you figure that out? You guys should know. Just explained it. Okay? So 2 IUs, what do? Well, we can go on the calculator to be precise, and 2 IUs is going to last you how many days? 9 days, correct? 9 days. So let's go 100 divided by 9. So the answer is 11.1. So if I wanted to take 2 IUs a day, right? I'm simply going to go to the 10 and I'm going to go just a little bit past the 10. Now, this syringe, every line, it goes in 2s. So it's not, one line isn't 1. One line is 2. There's only 5 lines to 10. So every line is 2. So on this syringe, 11 would not be 10 and 1 line. It would be 10 and between 10 and one line is 11. Okay? So I would draw to 11. That is my 2 IU dose, correct? So I'm going to take this dose every day, and it's going to last me 9 days. All right, do you guys understand the math? It's all simple math. Now, let's talk about the Chinese growth, okay? The Chinese growth hormone you get from China. All the Chinese growth pretty much comes in a kit of 10 bottles and 10 IUs in each bottle. So they made it very, very simple. Unlike Serrano, they made it very simple to figure out your dose, okay? So again, the same thing you do with Serrano Serostim, I suggest, is whatever your dose is, you want to end the last day finishing off that bottle. You don't want to put a little bit of the old and then open up a new bottle, fresh bottle, swirl it together, and then put a little bit of the new with the old together in one syringe. It just complicates things. So I feel like it's a lot easier to, whatever dose you choose, you're going to end that bottle and start fresh with a new bottle. Okay? So let's say you're going to take 5 IUs. Okay, that's so fucking simple and so easy, and the Chinese growth is so much easier to work with. Okay? Is it real? No. It's fake. So it doesn't really make sense for me to even talk about this shit. But I know people out there, if you can't afford the good real shit, you're gonna buy the fake shit. Now, as far as me saying fake, there has been good, legit Chinese growth. Okay, there has been. There's been watered down growth, and then there's been growth that's just completely fucking nothing. It's HCG, it's whatever it is, it's fucking bullshit. Now, there has been good growth. So it is possible to get good growth from China. All right, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's all bullshit and it's all fake. But, you know, most of it is fake or watered down. Pretty much all of it is probably watered down a little bit. All right, I think we all know that. So anyway, I'm going to explain how to take it anyway, because the people that can't afford the good, legit, 100% growth, they're going to buy the Chinese shit. All right, so basically, if you want to take 5 IUs and it's a 10 IU bottle, you put 1 cc of water in. Now, 1 cc of water is always 100, right? 100 on the insulin syringe is 1 cc. So if I was to take 5 IUs, where do I go on the syringe to take 5 IUs, right? Half of the syringe, half of 10 is 5. So I'm going to go to 50, bam, right? That is 5 IUs. Now, if I want to take 2.5 IUs, what do? Half of 50. So I would go to 2.5. Boom. All right, 2.5 IUs is going to last me 4 days, right? Because 25 times 4 is 100. So my suggestion with the Chinese growth would be, making it simple, would be taking 2.5 IUs or taking 5 IUs a day. Makes it so fucking simple. So I would say those are your choices. Or 10 IUs, right? 10 IUs, which on the Chinese growth, 10 IUs isn't that big of a dosage, because depending on how much is watered down, which we don't know, but it is, it's not that big of a dosage. But if you can afford 10 IUs of Chinese growth, you should be buying fucking the real shit, right? So anyway, guys, I hope this makes sense. I hope you guys understand how you figure out the math on reconstituting growth. Now, IGF1, let's talk about that. Now, most of all the IGF1 comes in 1 milligram. 1 milligram is 1,000 micrograms. Now, this makes it super easy to do the math. It's incredibly easy to figure out what your dosage would be. So let's say your dosage is 100 micrograms a day, right? 100 micrograms. So 1 cc of water in the bottle, swirling it up. What is 1 cc of water again? It is 100. Okay, that's a whole bottle of IGF1, right? Your dose is 100 micrograms. That is 1/10 of the bottle. So 100, what's 1/10 of 100? Well, number 10. Boom. That is 100 micrograms. So what would 50 micrograms be? It would be half of 10, right? So you'd go to number 5, line. But, like I said, this syringe and most insulin syringes, not all, the lines are in increments of 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, right? So that's very important. So when you go to 2.5, right, you're just going to go to one line is 2, and then you're going to go between the first and second line, and that's going to be 2.5, right? Which is a very, very, very small amount, correct? 50 micrograms. So it's pretty easy. Now, if you were going to take 25 micrograms a day, this is what I would suggest. I would suggest mixing 2 cc's of water in the bottle. Now, is this going to confuse the fuck out of you? No, all you're going to do is you're going to double everything. But you added double the water, so now you double everything on the syringe. So now, 25 micrograms, correct? You're going to simply go to the number 5, right? Because you're doubling it. So if you were to take 100 micrograms, right? You're not going to go to 10. You're going to go to 20. 20 would be 100 micrograms if you have 2 cc's of water. Now, if you're taking that large of a dose, you don't need to add more water. Stick to 1 cc. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Because when you have such a small amount in the syringe, a lot of times it's hard for you to be precise. And it's such a little amount that it's literally a couple drops. So I think you need to up the water so you have a little bit more room on the syringe to play with. So I hope this shit's making sense. Now, you know, IGF1 pretty much comes 1 milligram, which is 1,000 micrograms. Now, if it was 500 micrograms, correct? Well, 500 micrograms is, with 1 cc water, is basically you're going to be doing the exact same thing, but it's going to be half of what it would be if it was 1,000 micrograms, correct? So if you wanted to take 100 micrograms and it was only, the bottle was only 500 micrograms, you'd be taking 1/5, right? So what's 1/5? 1/5 is 20. So anyway, guys, I hope this is making sense, but where people get confused is it's not about the volume of the syringe. And I'm going to tell you guys a real quick story and example of, I had a conversation with a longevity doctor, and he was asking me about switching over from Lily Humatrope to Serrano Serostim, right? Well, the Lily Humatrope he was getting at the time, it was 13 IUs a bottle. The bottle was 5 cc's, and they had you put 5 cc's of water into the bottle for 13 IUs, right? So as you guys can see, it's a shitload of water for a small amount of growth. So what would happen is, let's say, you know, whatever his dose was, he was like taking this much in the syringe. So he was taking, you know, a full syringe of growth. So he'd look at it and be like, oh, full syringe of growth. Oh, this is great. So when he went to switch to Serostim, I explained to him, I said, you know, you only put 1 cc of water and it's 18 IUs. So in the Lily Humatrope, if you were to have 5 insulin syringes loaded all the way to 100, 5 fucking syringes, that's only 13 IUs. So amount of syringes, amount of water means nothing. It's the dose of the drug. It's 13 micrograms. I'm sorry, 13 IUs. We're talking about growth. It's 13 IUs. That's what matters. So he could inject 5 cc's of growth and only have 13 micrograms. Now, so when I explained to him on the Serostim, it's 1 cc per 18 IUs. So his normal dose like this, let's say, now his dose was this. This is what his dose was every day. So he would take this much every day. He'd be like, oh, okay, a whole syringe, right? Whole syringe. And then when he switches to Serostim, he's taking this much. Oh, okay, a couple drops. So in his head, he was not getting as much growth with this as he was with this, right? Do you guys follow what I'm saying? That it's the same amount of growth because the amount of water mixed in has nothing to fucking do with it. It's the drug. So he could not comprehend that. He's like, but Rich, this is more. This is more than this. Can't you see that? Look how small this is and look how much this is. Like, I'm getting ripped off. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is fucking killing me. You went to college, you went to med school, and you can't understand what I'm saying? He could not get it. He didn't fucking understand it. So that's where people get confused is, hey, you can put as much water in as you want and water it down, you know, and then you'll have more in the syringe. But it doesn't fucking matter. What matters is how many fucking IUs you're taking. So anyway, guys, I hope this helps. I hope a lot of people out there now understand how this works. I hope I didn't confuse you guys too much. But again, it's all math. And every growth is different. You know, Pfizer, Genotropin, let's talk about the pins. The pins, one pin is 36 IUs. Okay, that's how they come. So all the growths are not the same. So Pfizer, you know, I think it's, I can't remember how many cc's water is, but they're all, it's all, they put a different amount of water in each one, so it's all different. So if you're taking this growth and you switch to this growth, it's different. If you're taking, you know, the Chinese and you switch to Serostim, the amount that's in the syringe is going to be different, but it being the same exact dosage, being the same exact amount of IUs, the amount in the syringe is going to be different when you go to a different growth hormone. You see what I'm saying? People, for some reason, they have it stuck in their head that, okay, I'm taking a half cc of this kind of Chinese growth. Okay, so now when I go switch over to Serostim, I'm going to take the same. I'm going to take a half cc of Serostim. No, okay, a half cc of Serostim is 9 IUs. A half cc of the Chinese growth is 5 IUs. Does that make sense? So it's all about how much water you mix in and, you know, how many IUs it is per cc, and then you have to do the math. So anyway, guys, this is a subject I had to touch on. A lot of people out there, they don't understand this. They don't comprehend it. A lot of people out there, they don't want to comprehend it. They just want someone to tell them. They'll say, Rich, okay, how much growth should I take? I think you should take about 4.5. Okay, so where do I pull in the syringe? You pull to number 25 if you're taking Serostim. Oh, okay, so I mix 1 cc of water, I swirl it in, I pull to number 25, and that's 4.5 IUs. Correct. And I do that every day. Yeah, do it every day. Okay, so I pull to 25, I do it every day. After I mix the growth together, I keep it in the fridge, and then they're happy. They go on and they do their 25 every single day. But then what happens when they want to raise their dose? They want to take 6 IUs, or let's say they want to go from 4.5 to 6.5. Well, you have to understand this math because Rich might not be around for you to ask. See what I'm saying? So once you comprehend the formula of how it works, it becomes easy. So I recommend anyone out there who is taking IGF1 or taking growth or plans on it, interested in it, learn the goddamn formula. It's very simple. It's simple math. I sucked in math, and this shit is easy. Anyway, guys, I hope this fucking helps, and I think this is a very informative video. And anyway, guys, have a great fucking day.